The sci-fi survival horror classic Dead Space returns, completely rebuilt from the ground up to offer a deeper and more immersive experience. Explore the deep space mining ship, the USG Ishimura, as engineer Isaac Clarke. What starts as a routine repair mission quickly turns into a battle for survival as the truth behind the horrors on board begin to unravel. Humanity ends here. So, I am very partial to the original 2008 Dead Space. It is easily my favorite survival horror video game ever made. I mean, it just top notch, beats out all the rest. It's infinitely superior to the woefully overrated Resident Evil 4 classic as the greatest survival horror game ever made. That's a story for another video on another time. However, when this remake was announced, I was very dubious because the original to me was already perfect, apart from one really bad sequence, which I have figured out ways to get around or get through. It didn't need to be touched. It was already jaw-dropping gorgeous. It already was a beautiful, stunning video game. And so I was not looking forward to having one of my all-time favorite games being remade, but at the same time, I haven't had Dead Space for 10 years. So anything being done with the franchise, was alright. I would rather it be Dead Space 4, but since we're here, we might as well check it out and see what it's like. And so, yeah, I did an hour play of it a few weeks ago, and I was having fun with it. And this game does fix some of the issues that I had with the original one, no doubt. But the problem is, for the step it took forward, it took another step back on an issue that didn't need to be fixed. It didn't need to be tuned or replaced or changed. And yet they changed it, and they broke another aspect of the game. And so, yeah, let's get into it.
Level 2 security clearance required.
Okay, so for starters, I might as well go over the obvious. The graphics are insanely beautiful. I mean, just jaw-dropping gorgeous. Shadows, lighting are top-notch. There's some truly beautiful moments in this game, and especially moments that are jaw-dropping. The ray tracing, I absolutely love. And I didn't see too many, frame rate problems with my version of this game, playing it through ray tracing. Did it seem a little slicker on the performance mode? Sure, but I would rather have the ray tracing than the performance mode. That's just my personal, opinion. But, the ray tracing mode is excellent. I absolutely loved how the lighting was with this. And for a game that utilizes lighting this much and shadows this much, this is a game you want to play on ray tracing mode. Even if you are a performance nut where you have to have that 60 frames per second or it's not worth playing, this is one game you might want to make an exception to that, because the way this ship is, the star of the show is not Isaac Clarke, it's the ship. And the way the ship is, you want to enjoy the way the lighting's supposed to be, and you want to see ray tracing at its finest. I didn't see too many slowdowns with the performance, so that's just me. You might go, oh, this is unplayable in ray tracing mode. Fine, then you have your answer then. But the coolest thing about this game that I'll give it credit for is it now has an open world ship design. Now this isn't an open world map where you can like go to the front. No, this is still an enclosed ecosystem of the ship. But now you can go back to almost every level. There might be like a room you can't go back to because it's been destroyed. But for the most part, if you've been through a room, you can go back to it at any point in the game before you leave the ship. And it is so satisfying to be able to go back and forth between some of these levels, and it really makes the ship feel more like a ship, even though it didn't have that issue with the last game, because the last game, it already felt like a living, breathing ship with rooms that made sense. And they've fleshed it out a little bit. They've removed some rooms, they've combined some rooms, they've added new sections to this game, which is really neat, that interlock the different decks, like medical, engineering, mining, because in the original game, the only way you could get in between those decks is with the tram car. And it's a little unrealistic, but in this game, yeah, the tram car is like a fast travel way of getting back and forth, but before you can unlock the tram car, you have to go there on foot. And so there's a lot of these like little interconnecting sections that are completely new to the game that really make the ship feel a little bit more alive, believable, and I loved these new sections. It was like playing a brand new game, and so I really like that. And so you do have a better level room layout. There's a couple of rooms that I was like okay, this one I remember was a lot of problems. The room's different. It's not as big. It's a little bit smaller. I like that. And there's a couple others where it's like, okay, so I'm getting ready for this thing. I remember this. Oh, this is a much bigger room. Huh. Yeah, I can't use my old tactics with this. So that was a nice surprise. Another surprise that I absolutely loved, and this is a criticism that I didn't mention with my 2008 Dead Space review, is that the map on the original game was really atrocious. The one you pull up and you spin around, like on level 4, it's almost unusable because it's trying to keep everything in that level accessible, and you can't see any of the main bulk. You can only see like the center, and so it's just a very obtruse, disruptive map. And now they've taken like a top-down approach with the map that's a lot more user-friendly, and I liked the map a lot better this time around. And you have like these different levels you can go in the map, and so I really did like that. It was a breath of fresh air. Also new to this game that I liked were side quests. Now there's not a lot of them. It's probably like 10 side quests in total, and like most of them are probably like this one major side quest. But they added some backtracking, which I loved the backtracking in the first game, and so whenever I backtracked again over a new area, there would be a new enemy position that wasn't there before, and there was kind of like this randomizing enemy thing that happened whenever I backtracked a couple times. So whenever I go through an area, it has this like eerie calm that I feel like this should be a clean area, but then every now and then you have something pop out trying to kill you, and so it's a little bit more unsettling when you go backtracking, and I really liked that. There was also a new fuse box system where basically you have to gamble on what's going to be active in these little sections. So do you want to leave the lights on, or do you want to turn off your O2 system? And if you turn off your O2 system to leave the lights on, then you're going to be out of O2. You have to compete with O2 as well as the enemies you have to deal in that section. So there was a one time that like I came across a fuse box, and I had to do a specific order, which I didn't like. I like it when I have options. I like it where it's like, okay, I could either have no lights on, or I can lose gravity. Or, you know, but there's just one section I couldn't do that with. I didn't like it, but that's not a deal breaker. Now, this one, I didn't know what to think about. They completely changed the difficulty level and the weapon stats. And part of me really doesn't like that. On the original Dead Space game, you can play the game on one of the harder modes, not Nightmare, but like the one underneath that, really hard mode, and you can have a fun time because you can still take out the enemies with the same effort that it would on an easier mode, but just you're more vulnerable. So with that, it's not so much how many rounds can you pump into this one guy before he hits you once, it's how smart are you, how quick on your feet are you, how intelligent are you with item and resource management, how good of a shot are you with not wasting ammunition. Those are the hard modes I love. And that was a hard mode that the original 2008 version had. And this one, when you're choosing your difficulty, when you put the highlighter over the hard mode, it's like enemies are tougher and harder to kill. And like immediately is like a nope, you ruined that. Thank you, EA. But also weapons are nerfed at the base level. So in the opening hours, it is a completely different experience than when you start playing the game on the original version, because the original version, weapons have a little bit of a kick. You can improve them over time, but it's like you have like okay, this weapon, if I know how to use it right, but with this remake, like the plasma cutter is completely fucking useless until you level it up. It is, you're going to be using your entire magazine for one enemy and one enemy only. You run through ammo so quick with the plasma cutter until you start improving its stats, and I did not like that. That I see what they were trying to do, but even at the base level on the original game, the plasma cutter wasn't fucking useless like it is here. Now, another thing that has been improved upon is the node system. In the original game, you'd find these nodes, and you could use them for a locked room, or you could use them for upgrading your suit and weapons, and you had to waste a lot of nodes to get to the next upgrade in your weapon and suit tree. This time they've removed those wasted nodes so that if you use a node in one of your weapons or your suit, you're getting an upgrade of some kind. And I absolutely loved that with a passion. That was great. I didn't realize I was missing that from the original one so much, and I love that they fixed that. And they no longer have special rooms you need to use nodes for. They swapped it out to like with the fuse box system, and there was like something else they did I can't remember right now, but you don't have to use nodes anymore to unlock a room, and I really like that. Oh no, they use a special key system that you have to find like identity key cards throughout the entire ship, and there are certain ones that give you higher level access, and those are what you unlock special rooms with. And one of the side quests gives you like a master key system that'll let you unlock these special crates peppered throughout the entire ship. So I liked that new implementation as well. Another thing is enemies have been buffed up and sped up. So now enemies don't just stomp towards you. After a couple of stomps, they sprint at you. It is so jarring. It's so unexpected. And if they hadn't nerfed the weapons, I would have been completely fine with that. But because they nerfed the base weapons, the early levels really were kind of pissing me off. It wasn't until I started upgrading weapons that I started getting used to it. I like what they were trying to do with the beefed up enemies that were more aggressive, more ferocious. I did like that. I just wish they didn't sacrifice my weapons at the same time. Now, there's a couple of small improvements in the story, both in terms of the narrative and with logic. I don't want to spoil anything, but just there was a couple of things in the last game. It's like, okay, that seems like a stretch, but alright. Why are they exactly doing it like that? And with this, it makes a little bit more sense. And so I do like that. I do like that a lot. There's a couple things added that explains why you didn't do something when it became available. Try not to spoil anything. And they've added a couple like new cutscenes explaining stuff out. So I do like that a lot. It's nothing earth-shattering or game-changing, mind that pun. but it is kind of adds a little bit more context that I thought was pretty cool, to be completely honest. Now, one thing I did not like with the additions to the story was Isaac Clarke's back history with the Church of Unitology. I don't mind that Isaac Clarke is talking now this time, but they add this subplot where like his mother was a unitologist and she was so devoted to it that he became very anti-unitology, and he knows all about the Church of Unitology, and I feel it takes something away from the mystery of the game, because in the original one, like Isaac Clarke, you had no idea what the Church of Unitology was. And so it was kind of nice to kind of learn with Isaac Clarke, like, what this church was, and reading the notes about it. And now, like, there's these exposition dumps from Isaac Clarke where it's like, the Church of Unitology killed my mother, and I hate them with a passion. And then there's this backstory about how, like, him and Nicole, like, argued over the Church of Unitology, and like they do this one thing at the end of the game that changes a huge aspect to him and Nicole that I do not like. It's terrible why they did that. It's so stupid. It just sucks terribly. And then they've improved previous segments that were annoying, or they flat out were bad. Like the turret sequence. They've completely changed that so that now it's like this laser guiding sequence where you're out in space. You're not in like a turret chair. And it sounds a little bit more concerning than the previous game, but no, it's actually a lot of fun. It was challenging, but not overly difficult, and so they fixed like the one issue with the original game. I just wish they didn't add 3 more issues that were never there in the original game. And like, because of this, Mercer has more of a backstory added with new audio and text files that actually make him less of a walking cliche, and Mercer actually kind of felt like a threat this time around, which I liked. It's one of the only few characters that actually got improvement. More on that later. So yeah, I actually did like Mercer this time around when I didn't like him in the original game. And another thing that I thought was a nice touch was in the original game, it kind of felt like everything that happened on the ship happened over the course of like 48 hours tops before you got there. And in the remake, you get a sense that things have been going on the ship for months, if not half a year. Like, it's been going on for weeks. And so it has like this greater sense of dread that I didn't get with the original game. And so I did like that. You got new CRG mechanics that you saw implement in the second and third one that are brought to the first one. I like that. Those were really fun. I had some fun combat encounters with that, like just constantly like strafing to the right, like in a circle, trying to avoid getting hit, but at the same time I can't really see where the enemy is. So I had these like really fun like merry-go-round like cat and mouse games where I'm trying to hit the enemy, but I'm having trouble aiming as I'm spinning around, and the enemy's constantly launching me and just barely missing me. Those were actually a lot of fun, so I did like that. Now this gets me to the worst aspect of this remake, the thing that really hurts this game. I could have forgiven kind of some of the other issues with it, like the nerfed weapons, the changed hard mode for the worse, and the terrible like subplot they added with Isaac Clarke and Nicole, and that is the character designs. They took perfectly fine characters and designs from the original game, and they bastardized them in a way you cannot possibly imagine. Now, with the exception of Mercer and Kendra. Now, Kendra, I thought Kendra's design from the demo that IGN had looked atrocious. And in this game, it still looks atrocious. But once you get her off of the Kellyan onto the Ishimura, she looks like Kendra. And honestly, they improved Kendra, because I didn't realize this in the first game when I played it. But looking back, Kendra is the absolute fucking worst. She is such a massive dickbag in the first one that you're like hoping for her to die because she treats everyone like fucking dog shit. She's snide to everyone. She's disrespectful to everyone, even though there are monsters chasing her. She accuses everyone of everything, and she is the absolute worst. In this game, case in point, for example, in the original game, when they crash onto the USG Ishimura, she's immediately barking at everyone like, "What the hell were you thinking? What the hell do you think you were doing? How dare you do that? You could have got us killed." And in this one, after you crash on the USG Ishimura, she's like, "Hey, is everyone okay? Hey, that was good flying. Thanks for that. Yeah. Everyone breathing?" Like, she's far more likable in this one. And so those moments when she's very critical of Hammond or you, they feel genuine, and it doesn't feel like a bitch is just being a bitch, you know? And so I like the improvement that they did to Kendra. So apart from Kendra, that is it. Every other character has been done dirty for the worst. So let's take the least offensive one, Isaac Clarke. Isaac looked kind of cool in the second and third one, and now what the fuck did he do to his nose? Like, I don't know what the hell they did to his character design. He looks weird as fuck. And like, you compare the two character designs, one of these is not like the other one. One of these looks kind of cool. One of these looks like the guy played football too much. And so it just... I guess Isaac Clarke is the least egregious one. But then they changed Dr. Klein. In the original one, Dr. Klein was like portly, and he had like this very creepy look to his face, and you were supposed to have like this sense of like unease around him, like, can I trust this guy? He's saying he can I can trust him, but he just seems so off. And in this one, Dr. Klein is slim and gorgeous and nice on the eyes. He has a very smooth voice. He's like, "Hey, trust me. Come with me." And it's just like, this doesn't feel right. He's supposed to be like portly and creepy looking. But that's not the worst one. I don't know what the fuck they did to Nicole, but holy fucking shit. It is horrifying. Like, she is haunting. I feel like TJ Miller in Deadpool was like, "Motherfucker, you are hard to look at." I mean, so, for some reason, they made Nicole a 60-year-old cougar. Either that, or she's had a hard life of using hard drugs since she was a teenager. And so, her being 30, that's just the drugs that you're seeing. I mean, that's the only explanation, because they made her a cougar, okay? They made Isaac Clarke younger, and they made Nicole older. Which, like, why? Why would you turn Nicole into a cougar?
Why?
Oh yeah, also, she's the head of the medical department now. She's the head medical professional on the ship USG Ishimura, which, sure, fine, you want your girl boss moment, that's okay. But here's the issue. If she's the head of the medical board, then that means she was in on shit. And, like, that makes her backstory a lot more suspicious. Because in the original one, it's like, okay, she was just a doctor on it. She probably didn't know what was going on. But now that she's the head, she knew what was going on. And so that makes her less likable. Because if she knew what was going on, she's responsible for a lot of deaths. So your gold boss moment is kind of backfiring on you in the worst possible way. She should have just remained a regular doctor, not the head medical chief practitioner. So that didn't work. And, like, just woof. Like, playing this game, it's like, Isaac, I know you're fuck ugly with your nose, but you can do a lot better than this. Hell, you can really do a lot better than this. But she's not the worst part. The worst aspect of this, the character slaughterings, is Hammond. Oh my gosh, they did my boy Hammond dirty. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. Hammond was one of the coolest characters in the original game. He was the commander of the Killian. He had this awesome commanding authority, and it was like anytime he came on the radio, I kind of had like this sigh of relief, because it's like, oh good, Hammond's on. He knows what to do. He had that great authoritative, like, father figure tone where anytime he gave me an order, I didn't feel like it was a ridiculous order. I felt like, okay, if I do that order, things are going to be better. I'm going to be right. He was a great commander, and so when he went out fighting, and it was really awesome. In this game, Hammond is a little bitch. Okay, he's unsure of himself. He doesn't know what to do. They completely remove him from the hydroponics section, and they remove like all of his cool scenes, and he just goes missing for one point. And like there's a scene where it's like, I'm hiding, I hope they don't find me, and he like just doesn't know what to do. And the way they write his character out of the game is such a beta male way compared to the awesome epic way he left the game in the first one. It was just so like disgusting. It's like, dude, the way he went out in the first game was so fucking epic, and in this, it's like you made him into a little bitch, and it's so disappointing. Like, they ruined the character of Hammond, and I hate what they did with the characters. This game could have been a perfect 11 out of 11, and I would have given it that perfect 11 out of 11 despite the change in the hard difficulty mode, despite the nerfed weapons, and despite the really lame backstory with Isaac Clarke and the thing they changed with him and Nicole's relationship. I could have forgiven all that with the great gameplay, the better world, the open world system, the new segments, the great graphics, the fun gameplay. But the fact that they did these characters as dirty as they did, I have to hold that against this game. And so, yeah, I would say the original is better than this remake. Don't get me wrong, this remake's a lot of fun. There's some great moments. I absolutely love this remake. It's a better playing version than the original one. But when they screw up, they screwed up hard, especially with the characters and character models. There was no reason why they had to fuck up the characters the way they did. And so because of that, I have to give it this. I really wanted to give it a perfect score, but I just couldn't. I couldn't, in no good faith, give it a perfect score because of the egregious issues that they made with this game that they did not need to do. They did not need to fuck up the characters as badly as they did here. And because of that, I can't forgive it for that. Is this worth playing? Absolutely. It's a great fun game. But I'm not getting rid of my original version of Dead Space over this. That should tell you something. Anyway, that's been my review of Dead Space Remake on the Xbox Series X. My name's Christopher Connell with 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all for today.